Safil, Cola, hail, and well met, adventurer.
Hi, Griffin, you nasty rat, you.
Nasty rat. That's me. That was my nickname.
Yep.
In fifth through 8th grade.
Yeah.
Phil, we're checking out Guild of Dungeoneering, a game that dropped on Steam last week. It is, I've been playing it a lot. It's a pretty clever game. It's got some issues, but I wanted to talk about it with you because I knew you'd be into it because there's cards up in it.
I do love the cards. I love video game.
You do love the cards. Basic sort of loop of the game is you go into these dungeons that you build as you explore them. And you enter into combat with enemies, most of which you place on the board. The combat system is really clever. You deal either magic or physical damage, which is represented by those like red or blue stars.
Sure.
And then the cards can also defend you from the different types of damage. They can heal you. They can break through armor. They can move quickly so that you go first. And all you have to do is survive a fight, and then you fully heal and you get all your cards back.
Nice.
So each combat encounter is sort of its own separate thing. There are different classes in the game. Right now I'm playing as like an apprentice wizard, and that determines what cards you have, but then every time you defeat an enemy you get your choice of loot, and this loot can give you extra health and it gives you extra cards that get added to your deck to use in the dungeon you're in. It's kind of roguelike-y though, because when you finish the dungeon you start over.
Okay, you get rid of that deck entirely.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you get to keep the class, and the class can level up, but the loot that you find, you lose in between dungeons.
Sure.
But you do get gold, and you spend that gold to upgrade your guild to unlock new characters and boost the characters you've already got and unlock new abilities and all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Here's another example of combat. There's special modifiers that can get applied to you based on sort of the different enemies you fight. So if you fight a skeleton, it might be really brittle. So if you do a bunch of damage to it in one turn, you'll do extra damage to it. This time I have a perk that I picked up from a fountain that I found in the dungeon that heals me every time I block a damage point, which is pretty helpful.
That seems useful, yeah.
Yeah, the classes are all, it seems so simple, right? This combat mechanic of like just sort of making an exchange every round of combat, like figuring out how to make the enemy lose hearts without you losing any hearts.
Yeah.
It's a really simple sort of mechanic, but there's actually a lot of depth to it. Like there are different classes, and the different classes have different sort of proficiencies. Like there's a brawler character that deals damage every time you fully block an enemy's attack, and so that becomes like your main way of dealing damage. There's a lot of like intricacy to it that I actually really like.
And I mean, in a lot of ways, aren't we all trying to just like, you know, take somebody else's heart damage and not take our own? I don't know.
Oof.
I was trying to turn it into a metaphor that means a lot.
No, that was some deep shit. Let's throw that on a Hot Topic shirt.
Great.
And sell it for $21.
Done.
So this is my guild. Got a bunch of gold from that quest. And I also got a trophy room because I beat a big bad boss.
Oh, nice.
So you can spend your gold on purchasing these new rooms, or sometimes you'll just get them for doing certain things in the game, and then you can just slap them right onto your guild.
I do love the graph paper look a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now I got my Rat King's tail there. So I'm going to spend some of that gold that I got on a new character.
Nice.
There are different trees that you can spend money in, but really they're more like just sort of basic tiers, where the next tier are more expensive.
Sure.
And so you'll keep knocking out these dungeons until you get more gold from them, and you can get more complicated characters and perks for your characters and stuff like that. So now I've got a brawler on my team.
Seems really cool. So this is you're playing on PC. Is there like iOS version as well?
It seems perfect for that, right?
Right, it totally does.
It seems tailor-made for it. Right now there's not. I think there's plans to whip one up, but this just launched on Steam, so they may need a while. This is some of the dungeon building stuff. And this is where like my problems with the game kind of start is this is one part of Dungeoneering. You have 5 cards at the beginning of each of your turns, and they will be monsters, they will be treasure, and they will be rooms.
Sure.
And so you have to put those down to sort of build yourself a path through the level. And it's not a great mechanic. Like sometimes you just like won't have the corner piece you need to move towards the place you want to go. And so you just kind of put down junk until you stall to the point where you do get the card that you want.
Sure.
And you can always like throw down monsters in like the trash rooms that you're moving through and like find new loot. But at a certain point, like you'll have good equipment and all the spots, and you really just want to kind of get done.
Yeah, you
want to
finish things off.
And if it's not like that hard to just like stick around and wait until you get the cards that you need to build the dungeon you need, but like it's not fun. Like it's not especially fun at all. And I don't know, it seems like a big part of the game, like a big like selling point is you get to build the dungeons yourself, and the actual building of the dungeons isn't very fun. On top of that, I think the bigger problem is that after you've done like the first few dungeons and like gone through the different types of objectives, like sometimes you have to beat a boss, sometimes you have to get to different like 2 big chests like this one, sometimes you have to like kill a certain number of enemies. After you've done that, there's not like a lot else to the game. Like this mechanic of putting down stuff in the dungeon and exploring and going through and killing enemies, that's like, it doesn't change a whole lot. There's some like nuance to like the types of cards that enemies will bring to the table and the different modifiers and stuff like that, but it's not like a gigantic difference. So like now I'm about maybe an hour and a half into the game and it kind of feels like I've seen everything, which is kind of a bummer. Like I feel like there's actually a lot of meat on these bones. On the bones of this idea, I should say.
Sure.
And I'm not like 100% sure that this game is gonna really cook that meat up and serve it to me at the table.
Sure. It does seem really cool though, and it seems like something that maybe, I don't know what the developers' plans are, if they're planning to expand on it, but like whether it's like in a sequel or an expansion pack, something like they could really build something awesome out of this.
Yeah, I think especially on iOS, a game like this could do really, really well.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's I think the frustrating thing is like the hard thing for a game like this is coming up with the like a combat system that works, that feels good, that's like clever and rewarding, and they like knock that out of the park. Like I really, really enjoy customizing my character in each dungeon, and then getting the cards that sort of make up for their weak points, and then figuring out like what's the best cards to use against the different types of enemies. Like that stuff's really engaging, but not a lot of other stuff is.
Yeah.
So maybe Guild of Dungeoneering 2, the sequel, will be good. I even think I would enjoy this game a lot more on iOS. It's just like sitting down at my PC, like there's not.
Yeah,
a lot
I
to
genuinely
sort of keep my butt in the seat.
Yeah, watching you play this, I'm genuinely like, oh, if this were on iPad, I could totally see myself playing this, at night for hours while I watch some TV or something.
Yeah, sure. And that sounds like a good night to me.
Yeah.
Depends on the TV show, though. I've got some Scandal on the TiVo.
Oh,
Did I tell
perfect.
you I still have a TiVo?
Yeah.
It's the only functioning TiVo still in existence. Anyway, this is Guild of Dungeoneering. It's out now on Steam. It's $14.99, and hopefully it'll make its way to a mobile device soon.
Marauder.